So I want to thank everyone who was able to join us on a Friday for the first study session. I had originally planned to do 4 chapters of Ancient Language of the Soul, but as those of you who attended and have gone back and watched the study session, there was quite a lot of material in the first 2 statements, the introduction, and in chapters 1 and 2, which is great. We were able to make it through the material, has some highlights, take some bullet points, and hopefully we have some questions and comments about the material today. Next week, Friday, we will do chapters 3 and 4. And I also have the PDF version of the text, which includes the illustrations, the diagrams, and the charts. So I will go back and forth between the Kindle version, which those of you who have the e-version will have that version, as well as the PDF version, so we can look at the charts. But I believe those diagrams start in chapter 4 and continue on 5 and 6 and throughout the rest of the text. I decided to do those on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to answer a lot of questions we've had about it, yes, they are recorded and they're up on YouTube, or they will be continuing on YouTube under their own playlist called Study Sessions Playlist. So if you look on that playlist, you'll be able to see this first class we did on Friday and subsequent study sessions as we continue to review the teachings that are made available to us through the IMKC library. Oh, additionally, I wanted to add that we will also cover additional text written by the same author, our teacher, Mr. Nehemiah Davis, in the study session series. I won't announce them now, but Mr. Davis has other texts that he has ready for publishing and other texts he's working on as well. And so as we continue through the study sessions, we will look at those texts as well. We'll study those, and then we will, in the same manner, take the questions and comments to our open discussions on Sunday. I know some of you have already been enjoying the Ancient Language of the Soul. Mr. Davis has more text that he has authored, and we will study those and have a lot of fun reviewing and growing in our knowledge and wisdom. So if there are no questions, let me switch to the Ancient Language of the Soul. We'll look at some of the highlights I had made while we were doing our first pass through. And if there are any questions on the material, you can feel free to ask them, or any other questions that you may have. We'll be happy to address those for you. So again, this text is available on Amazon, or you can go to our mysticknowledge.org website under the link new book sale, and there's a lot of information there on the text, as well as links to either Amazon or to the publisher's webpage, where you can purchase both a physical copy and an electronic version. So on Friday, we looked at the author's statement, which talked about the law of mantra. We also looked at a brief statement on the AUM. We looked at the dedication page, and then we also went into chapters 1 and 2. So I'll start off with the highlights. I know at chapter 2, I stopped highlighting because I think it was too disruptive in the flow of how I wanted the study sessions to go. In the future, what I'll do is I will make highlights and notes prior to the study sessions so that it could be more of a audiobook format where I'm reading the material, and then after we finish either one or two chapters, I think in future study sessions with this particular book, we may just do one chapter per session because of the amount of material that's packed into it. After we read the text, then we'll go back, look at some of the highlights, look at some of the notes and bullet points that I made. And we'll take those into our Sunday open discussion and study class. And we'll pose those questions and comments to the author, Mr. Nehemiah Davis. And we'll kind of follow that same, we'll see how that model works, that methodology works. And if it proves to be successful and more engaging for all of you, then we'll continue that with the other texts that we look at, including some text by Yogi-Rama Charaka, Shivananda, Yogananda, and so on, as just as an example of the texts that are currently listed in our ebook library. So the first highlight I made in chapter 1, the keys to understanding this book, was a statement here. It was talking about the manipulations of prana that assist consciousness in manifesting itself on cosmic levels, solar levels, and eventually the human levels of existence through the power of mantras on all levels of existence. So my question on that was on these different types of mantra that are used on these varying levels. So if you remember from previous classes, Nehemiah has told us that the sun recites the AUM, and in that mantra, the pranas are pushed out and propagated throughout the entire solar system, the 5 major pranas. And then when those pranas reach each planet, in turn, they release a mantra, modify that energy, and send it back out to all the life streams that inhabit that particular planet, as well as throughout the rest of the solar system. Could you go into a little bit more detail about that, Nehemiah?
Yeah. In the ancient tantric teachings, they describe the sun as radiating. They describe the sun as being a compaction of Shakti, and that Shakti is released by the Tavic rays, and those Tavic rays feed or sustains the solar system, and all the planets and moons and asteroids and even beyond. So and inside of that, you have the different layers of consciousness, because there's a massive universal consciousness being modified by the sun in order to create life streams on all the planets. Because all the planets of the solar system comes from the sun and is sustained from the sun. So the ancient teachings calls it the celestial sounds of the gods, and that is the sun, the solar system itself, the galaxy, and the universe. Now, in these days, the scientists have discovered this sound vibration, and they have listed it under their screen theories. They claim that there's a symphony that of sound vibrations that hold life together. But this was stated thousands, millions of years ago by the ancient mystics. And now the physical scientists are discovering that this is so. Did that answer your question?
Yes. So is it the same? Oh, what is my question? Supreme Lords of Creation, then the Lords of Karma, the Solar Lords, the Planetary Lords. Is it the same AUM, or I don't know if it's AUM for sure, or the same mantra that is being repeated from that original Vok all the way through, or is it as each level of being a cosmic level, a solar level, is it when they do their modifications, are they changing it, or is it becoming a different aspect of that same mantra?
Well, what we know from our studies and from the cosmic masters and seers and swamis of old have taught us that that on a universal level, there's 36 named Tabic rays, because when the initial Vok happened, where God or the Absolute released this sound, and it was the initial sound that brought forth Shati, and that sound turned into Nata. So you have Nata and Shati is really the same thing, because every Shati has a configuration of sound vibration, of this subtle, supreme sound vibration. That's how they describe it. They describe it as Nata and Sata. And what happens is this wave, this electronic magnetic spectrum that's created by the Nata and Shati, that begins to modify itself and create the manifested universe. In that, they named 36 Tabic rays or Tabic substance, or streams of energy within this, within this Shakti power. Now, but before that, they talk about the 4 principles of Shakti. And then from the 4 principles Shakti comes the what they call the Tavas. And the Tavas are the 36 Tavas. Now, later on, we learned that when the mighty suns or solar lords of each solar system takes on this Nata Shakti and Tava rays, they modify that. Our particular sun modified the Tabat rays into 360 Tabat rays as far as this earth is concerned. And that and those 360 Tabat rays is the thing that creates the realms of existence that we live on. All realms of existence that we live on is created by these tablet rays, and these tablet rays are sonic rays and energy combined with the sonic rays and mind energy. It contains the four principles of Shakti, and all the elements, all the pranas, everything combined, and they call it a mode of motion because it molds this Shakti power into multiple life streams and realms of existence.
Okay, so that actually brings me to the next highlight. You're talking about the modes of Shakti and the multiple life streams. It is stated that mantra is an aspect of the Shakti power that expresses consciousness throughout all forms of life as the will of God to manifest evolution from involution. Now, I remember many times, a few times the question has come up, whereas why did the absolute see fit to involve itself? I remember you saying a couple of times that's the one unanswerable question. But the fact that we're here is evidence that it did involve itself into these many countless life forms or expressions of that Shakti power. Now, as you said, mind molds and shapes that power into the expressions of consciousness than whatever they're taking on. And we are what we are because we believe we are so. So could we then consciously use mantra to express our consciousness in a different form?
Yeah, when you chant mantra actually raises your vibration, and it allows you to decode and code your body. Psychically, if someone look at you while you're chanting mantra, the first thing they would notice if they from each realm of existence of your aura or your bodies, they would notice that mantra has an effect on your auric body, which is the real body of the soul. And it begins to spin the outer layers of the aura, creating some type of centrifuge effect. That's what it looks like when you view it. Now, we know as scientists or even human beings, we know that if you want to modify something, what do you do to it? You create motion, right?
Right.
If you had a fruit or food or whatever, and you wanted to get all the nutrients out of that food, you buy a blender and you blend that food, and so that you can drink the fullness of that food, or you can intake the fullness of food without the food being ripped apart in certain, So in all life, even in analyzing blood, I used to be a lab technician where I spent many hours analyzing blood, and one of the things we did, we put the blood in a centrifuge, and we spent it in order to separate the particles, and then we analyzed that blood. We did the same thing with urine. So, and scientists do that constantly. They do that constantly, where they accelerate the motion of that thing in order to analyze it, or in order to understand it, in order to move it to a different state of existence, so that they can see all parts of it. Well, the yogis tell us, and the psychics that examine us while we chanting mantra, they notice that that mantra accelerate the particles of the aura. The aura is the thing that sustains us from life to life. And so in chanting mantra, one of the great qualities of mantra is that it brings about this centrifuge effect where it spins the aura and throw off the negative, at least part of the negative substance within the aura. It burns it up and throw it off. And that's decoding and coding the aura to allow your mind, your consciousness, your body to rise to a different level of consciousness and even physical existence after a while. So the ancient word for Java, the ancient meaning for Java, is to break the wheel of rebirth. Java meaning repetition of mantra. So when you start studying mantra, you'll see that the repetition of mantra in a proper way, constantly, allows you to raise Kundalini and break the wheel of rebirth. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes. And I wanted to zero in specifically on the will of God to manifest evolution from involution. Is that describing karma in the way that you and Dr. King have defined it as a pressure towards conformity? Is it what that pressure is conforming us to is the will of God in order to manifest evolution, or in a sense to return everything back onto itself?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's what we're taught.
And then, so then mantra is a tool or an aspect of that Shakti power to accomplish that goal.
Correct. Yeah, that's what all the great yogis and masters have taught us. That mantra is one of the essential tools to doing that.
Hence the power, the guaranteed power of mantra.
Yes. Even Dr. George King said mantra is guaranteed. And that's one of the reasons why mantra is guaranteed. Because it has that effect to transcend consciousness, to mold and shape. Because it's physical, it's actually physical mind substance. And what does mind do? Mind molds energy and matter.
Mm-hmm.
So these correct sound vibrations mold energy and matter, and you can use it to create a risen state of consciousness and body for yourself through mantra.
Okay. Once again, everyone, if you do have any questions or comments, doesn't necessarily have to be on the material we're covering right now. You can feel free to post those in the chat, either on YouTube or in Zoom, and I'll be glad to answer those for you. All right, the next highlight I had made, let's let the full function voices show them. Okay, got that one already. Okay, so this next highlight is something that you've discussed several times in multiple classes. It is, you can tell the state of mind or level of consciousness someone is operating upon based off of how they vocalize their thoughts, how they speak. And I've always found that very interesting, in that you taught us sound is consciousness. So the sounds that we produce indicate the level of consciousness at which we operate upon. Could you go a little bit more about that, as well as like the the state of mind, and then also how some are, how we're taught to put up a facade many times, especially if we have a public persona. When we hide or mask our inner feelings and thoughts, how does that affect our state of mind as well? And can that be corresponded or transmitted in interacting with someone in this way?
If you speak that person's language and you have a level of understanding and comprehension, then this is just a natural thing about you. And even if you don't speak the language, because when certain sound come out of your mouth, your body react, your face transform, your hands or the stature of your body moves. So if you are an observant person, you will notice all those things. So you'll notice that the person, and you'll notice this instinctively in most cases. You can be awakened to this by studying it, but you would notice the state of that person's mind, position, and attitude and grasp on life just by speaking to them. And that's just an inherent thing within us, and it expresses itself constantly throughout all races and cultures. So it's, and just a quick study of that culture or that region of the world, and you know that. I mean, the theatrical people, they master this. That's how they're able to act and perform.
Move on to the next.
I think Veronica has a hands up.
Oh. Yes, sorry, Veronica. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. This was just regarding the previous highlighted portion in the text when it referenced evolution to involution. And the question that I had was, can someone or an individual be a sustainer to life, contributing to the evolution by creating from an involution state? Because I was trying to grasp the importance of coming from a place before it's manifested. And then when you just, or in the book where you referenced about the sun and how that's a being and what it's doing is sustaining life on multiple, I was going to say platforms, but systems, and an expression of how I'm interpreting is God's love also to create, from kind of what Dwayne said, what's the purpose and why would he come forth? And I see it as showing love, or just being a mother myself, like, that you want to create or to have a child before you actually meet your child or have that child. So I was looking at it from that stance too.
Yeah, you have to understand evolution. Evolution is moving from the all in all down to the level in which you need to start from. But at every level, we are doing similar. We are sustaining life similar to the sun, not on a massive scale that the sun is doing, but on our level. Right now, as we exist in our human body, we sustain the cellular life, which is a life form. Each cell is an individual life form, and we sustain them. We help the insects. We help the bacteria. The bacteria is a life form. we help everything in existence. The same way we breathe in oxygen, which comes from the plant life, and we breathe out carbon dioxide, which sustains the plant life. So throughout life, the same law is happening to us, the same way it's happening on the level of the planet, of the planets, and the solar Lord, the solar system, the mighty sun. The mighty sun sustains all life in this solar system and outside of the solar system. We sustain life in probably our at least within our realm of existence, we help to sustain all the life, the micro life, the insect life, the plant life. You know, we help sustain that within this envelope of atmosphere that we live in. So we're constantly doing these things. Now, what we do wrong is that we have failed to a mental level where we radiate this negative type mental energy, and it helps to dampen or inhibit the cycles of life of those things below us, but below our sentinel life, and those things even above our sentinel life, because they're limited on what they can do for us because of our toxic mental distortion that we have placed on this earth. But yes, we sustain all life. We give out the same type of energy. It's just that our energy is a little bit distorted and contaminated, and we must rise above this, and so that we can produce a pure love energy and a more balanced energy that goes out around the world. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
So I have a question here. Can chanting mantra accelerate certain experiences that a person needs to go through?
Yeah, mantra has that effect. It has the effect. It also has the effect of destroying certain negative situations that may create into experiences. Because, like I said, it decodes and codes your aura. So some of the effects of mantra is that when you, as you chant mantra, you can raise your consciousness to a level where you no longer need to go through certain experiences anymore. And that's why the great masters would tell certain people they'll give them a mantra and tell them chant this mantra day and night, and they'll give them a time of they may give them a number. They say a million times or 10 million times or whatever, and that negative comment that's on you will be dissolved. And that's why they did that, because they know that if they spoke this great language of the gods, the soul, repeatedly, and thrust their whole mind and body into it, they would be making a sacrifice not to do other things, and eventually they would accentuate the BJs of those particular chakras that mantra has an effect on, and it will open their consciousness, and they will have great visions and understanding, and they will eventually rise above certain idiosyncrasy type desires, because they would burn up their desires to do those negative things that they wanted to do. And their consciousness rise to a different level of existence, and they no longer have that hunger to do those idiot things. So and we can see that in our life, because once we gain knowledge and understanding of a particular situation, we never go back there. Once we know that fire burns, we never want to stick our hands in the fire anymore. You know, once we know that you know, that if we do a certain thing that it can cause sudden death, we don't want to do that anymore, or sudden pain, we don't want to do it anymore. But we have to come to a level of understanding, a level of consciousness that we know what's right and what's wrong. I hope that answered the question.
Any other questions? Incarnation sucks. Let's see. I think you already covered that one. The development of language of the human race has accelerated their evolution. Language is a sound vibration, which is a Nada Shakti power. Language is physical expression of organized thoughts, which is also the power of Nada on a mental level. I wanted to ask, when I highlighted this, about the two metaphysically derived languages that were given to humanity, specifically the language of Sanskrit. Was that language given to humanity for the purpose of accelerating our evolution?
That's what we're told. We're told that because at least the race of beings that the mystics talk about that came 18,600,000 years ago. They came to this world, as the Bible described them, as fallen angels. You know, the mystics believe that the Bible described the whole race of man that came here as fallen angels, which was Satan. So we had we were the offsprings of Satan. In other words, that's how those authors that actually wrote that described us, because the Meldak man was the race of people that murdered that murdered the planet, that destroyed the planet. So for hundreds of thousands of years, man had to live on the lower astral realms that was created for them. That was created for them in order to have them to burn up some of their negative karma from that act. And then at the time, they say that the cosmic beings created a physical existence that this physical existence they described was a physical existence below the heart chakra, which was the all the chakras below, because each chakra is a level of consciousness. And from that consciousness, it builds us, it solidifies itself into a physical realm of existence. So the realms of existence below the chakra, below the heart chakra, were actually, they described it as a distortion to this earth, as a mental distortion to this earth. So they they seen this, the mantra, the yogas as tools in order to decon the earth and the race of people, you know, in order to decontaminate them. And that language was scientifically grafted on their chakras as a language that can raise their consciousness, as sound vibrations that can raise their consciousness. So all the letters of the Sanskrit is actually described as the original samskaras of the soul. It's the action that the soul made in order to bring the consciousness back home to a pure state of mind, in other words. So I hope you understand. Did that you understand?
Yes, yes, yes. Just going back and forth to look to see if there's any other questions or okay. Let's go to the next one. This is referring to, it's believed that when ancient Bibles on the verse stated God spoke the word and the word was God, and creation was formed, that this word was a sound vibration that carried the will of God throughout the universe. As a testament of those, we talked about that already. They argue the point that all life as we know it has a specific sound associated with it. A sound that is exhibited from all life forms represents levels of intelligence and awareness. This sound within all life is the manifested conscious state of being that expresses itself in the subtle and gross realms of life. And we talked about this earlier, but I wanted to ask specifically on when you're performing a samyama. For example, you wanted to get the strength of an elephant, you perform a samyama on an elephant, and you can incorporate that quality into yourself. Does the samyama reveal that sound that is expressed by that particular life form, and then give you the knowledge and ability to incorporate that sound into your own auric structure?
Yeah, I believe it does. Remember that your breath is a sound.
Right.
Right. So the yogis tell us that your breath is also a mantra. Right.
Right.
So the intake and the intake of breath, which is energy, and the outtake of that breath, which is energy, makes a sound, and that sound has a certain configuration about it. Coupled with your mental makeup and your karmic position, and that's the thing that makes you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing with an elephant. An elephant is tapped into a particular mental and sonic realm of existence. And the only difference when the yogi do a samyama on the elephant, which is a contemplation on the elephant, he or she look at the configuration of that, the common configuration of that elephant to allow the elephant to gain strength, and take that, but they have to move it to the level of consciousness that they exist on. That's the big difference. So they can't operate from the mental level that the elephant. They have to find that mental sliver that works on their existence without hurting themselves, in other words.
Mm-hmm. That also brings to mind to me in a lot of like fantasy genre, there's the concept of the true name, if you're familiar with that. It's like the true name of a being, where if you know that name and you recite that name, you pretty much have full control over that particular entity. And I thought about that because I was thinking about the names or pseudonyms that we associate to some of the cosmic masters that have given us teachings to create their society. We're not given their real names or their true names. We're giving they're given a pseudonym. Is there some truth to that true name concept? And also, why are we not given the actual names of certain beings, but only ways in which we can address them, refer to them?
I just answered that earlier. We live in a contaminated state of existence. So, you know, we move and have our being the way we want to outside of the law, which cause a distortion, which cause greater pressure on us to move in the position that we need to move. Now, if we had that power, what would we do with it?
Yeah. Mhm.
So until you purify your mind and your position in life and realize that you have to walk and you have to think and walk, you know, in the way of the laws of karma,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the correct way, without creating this great pressure against you, then, you know, then you will be afforded all the secrets,
Right.
all these things. Other than that, you can't. I mean, you know, we see what people do with weapons today.
Mm-hmm.
They're using weapons to for some reasonable fashion. They use it to cause chaos. The same way they do with everything that exists, money, everything, food, water, you know, with the earth that's 70-some% water. Why in the hell people don't have water?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And the reason why is because of greed, because of this mental distortion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have an abundance of water here, but yet people dying of thirst. You know, so you cannot be given certain things. Now, learned man know that if they find the true nature, because you see this all the time, they name items after the person who discovered it,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives that thing power. Think about it. So once someone discovers something and they have the understanding of putting that together, they begin to name those things behind that person, and it gives a sustaining life to that object.
Mm-hmm.
So they do that constantly. They do it with medicine. They do it with parts. They do it with cars. They do it with mechanical things, because they understand that's part of the law.
Right. So then that brings me to another question. Right. So it says here, a sound that is exhibited from all life forms represents levels of intelligence and awareness. This sound within all life is manifest consciousness state of being that expresses itself in the subtle and gross realms of life. So that means that this particular expression for myself, I'm looking directly on myself, this particular expression of consciousness, manifestation of consciousness, has a sound associated with it that allows it to, or me to express itself across subtle and gross forms of life. What effect does being given a name with each incarnation have to that that sound that is behind this life force that is currently expressing itself as Dwayne McLean, for example, in this particular life? Another life will have a different name, and different names with each incarnation. what effect or power does that name have over this and other expressions?
It actually lays out what the mystics say. It lays out the pathway or the cycles that you must go through in life, and it protects you, it guides you, protects you, and guard you against certain ailments, and also strengthen you. And then as you evolve, that's why as a yogi student evolve, the master may come and say, I'm adding this to your name.
Mhm.
You know, and it strengthens you and take you in a different direction. So the letters, each letter has a particular power
Mhm.
over you, and you know, that's why I told you all to study numerology.
Right.
You know, because your name, along with the convergent point that you came into the world, it can map out situations, challenges, and situations that you will have to overcome in this life. And you can map that out with numerology. It may sound crazy, but it's real.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's so real that in other words, the earth, the sun creates an electronic magnetic spectrum that engulfs the whole world. On the other end, the moon takes this sunlight and reflects the sunlight, creating a different type of, a negative type, not bad, but in the sense of scientific, negative electronic magnetic spectrum by reflected light on the earth as well. Now, we know that electronic magnetic spectrum, which is light, when you break into that light, it creates an array of colors. Your birth is like someone breaking into that ray of light. So it creates a configuration
Mhm.
of energy and lights going in a different direction, taking on a certain color, a certain texture, a certain style or expression of light. And that's going to last for a particular cycle.
Mhm.
And with that, you can produce and project a certain power, a certain energy, a certain whatever for that period of time. You as the consciousness and entity of that thing.
Mhm.
So that's what a birth is, a cycle, reincarnation cycle.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, that name, that birth date, that hour of the birth date, that minute, that second means something. And when you can analyze that mystically, metaphysically, you can lay out your challenges for that life and super exceed those challenges. And you can also look at the situations that you could take advantage of as well, because of that name, because of that birth, because of that moment in time that you created that distortion in the electronic magnetic spectrum. That's what the yogis teach us. That's what the yogi teachings tell us. And that's what numerology is about, and astrology, as a matter of fact.
Do you have any questions or comments? Anyone? I think I have a couple more highlights here. Let me see which ones I want to look at.
Veronica, have a hand back up.
I see it. Go ahead, Veronica.
Thank you. It was just on the previous area that was discussed. Is judgment a misuse of concentration? Like, for example, let's say that outside someone's acting foolish and I say, I can't stand XYZ, what they're doing. And it came from, this thought just came from how Dwayne said, like taking on the energy of what you focus on, like the elephant. So my thought was, if I'm judging something, a negative trait that I identify as being negative, or I think that's negative, is it possible for me to take on that because I judged it, I concentrated on it, or if I allowed it to bother me or have an emotional response in me, am I taking that on, or can I take it on?
Well, I think there's a positive way to judge something through facts, through observation, through understanding, and then there's a negative way to judge something. So it depends on the motive behind you even judging something, you know, and so, I mean, you can judge something in a positive way, and your motive might be to help that thing or person or place, or you can judge it in a negative way in order for you to gain a greater status or hold them down. So the negative way is a selfish way, and the positive way is an unselfish way. And so when you're doing things in a negative fashion with the wrong motive, that's wrong. That's not right. If you're doing it for a positive reason, for no necessary gain or on your side, but just in a totally unselfish way in order to help raise and that person or place or thing up, then it's all right to I don't know if the word is judge. I don't know if that's a good word to describe it, but that's the way I would look at it. That's the way the teachings tell us.
Okay, thank you.
It's always motive behind every thought and action.
Veronica's question brought to mind something I've seen to come true, at least in my lifetime, the statement that you become that which you hate.
You can what?
You become that which you hate. So that I've seen it even in my own family. You harbor these very negative and feelings or emotions towards something over a long period of time, and then slowly you become that very thing, be it a parent or something else that that you harbor these very negative feelings for. And I've always looked at it as, okay, well, this particular individual or experience was brought into your orbit to teach you a lesson, and you responding in a negative way or exhibiting very strong hate-like emotions towards it only strengthens that negative samskara in your aura, and thereby brings an even greater or more intense lesson, attracts it to you for you to go over again and again, either in this life or even in future lives coming.
Yeah, I remember that. I seen that many times. I remember one particular case where the person was putting down and judging someone because of the career that they had touched.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned it to me and laughed about it. And as they laughed about it and mentioned it to me, I seen a flash, because your aura always give off your past and your present and your future. And at that particular time, when that person did that, I immediately prophesied and told him, I said, you will become that what you're laughing at. And that's where you've been working for a long time until you can get over that. And that person took on that career and stayed in that career for the last 25 years. So, you can become that which you hate or criticize. You know, that's so true. You know, and I've seen it happen over and over and over again. You know, and they can't seem to get over that stage because of their critical attitude and how they belittle someone else for taking on that particular career or that particular job or whatever.
So let's see the next one. Sound body is the background power behind all bodily functions, subtle and gross. Somebody. Next one. Some body of man has consciousness and the soul as a point of where it came from, which we describe as bodiless consciousness. Okay. It is the bodiless consciousness. You've used that term many times in describing soul. It is also described the soul as the vehicle of expression for the spirit. So what exactly does bodiless consciousness mean?
Well, in the Tantra Shastra and Mantra Shastra teachings, that terminology came about because you have the spirit, and the spirit brings into manifestation the soul, and the soul brings into manifestation the auric body for itself. So at that point, you have no, hold on for a minute. You have no body as we know it. You have no body as we know it. So that's why they call it the bodiless consciousness.
I mean, it's not limited by a form, it's formless?
Yeah, it's because remember, when the soul, once the soul creates the auric body, the soul pulls on the Shakti power in order to in order to pull down this Shakti and mold it and shape it into consciousness. You know, other than that, it has no consciousness, and it has no body except for the traveling vehicle of the aura. But the aura is connected to the universe, because the way the soul creates the aura, the auric body, is by pulling on the pure Shakti power and building this auric substance that's indestructible, that can last throughout the centuries, because that auric structure would carry the soul on its journey of involution and evolution. So at that point, it's bodiless. And now, as it builds the bodies go within the aura, not out, not around the aura, in other words. So the auric body contains the mental body, the energy body, the etheric body, the astral body, and the physical body. All those are contained within the auric body, and it's sustained by the auric body.
All right, and we'll finish with this last quote here. It says, "It is the only I am you will know, and yet it is not the I am because it is part of the whole that never separated from the absolute. The spirit or I am is the only God you will know, but it is not God because it is a fraction of God. Yet the spirit is the only real you that you will ever know." What is the difference between I and I am?
Yeah. You said what is what now?
The difference between I and I am.
I am is the spirit. We recognize that as being the spirit, a divine spark of God. The I is the soul. You know, we recognize the I as something that the spirit created in order to make its journey, in order to manifest a part of the whole in a multiple physical realm of existence. And that's
So
the
when
I, which is the soul.
so when we say I am, we're identifying ourselves as spirit, or
Yeah, if we are aware of that, you know, the mystics like to tell the story of Jesus when they said that Jesus, when the soldiers came to take Jesus away, he said, you know, I am he. You know, when they was asking who was Jesus, and
Mhm.
they say that the soldiers fell dead when he said that because
Mhm.
he was aware of who he really was, or he was aware of the I am. And the scriptures say that he brought them back and explained to them who, you know, that he was the person and to leave his disciples alone. But in the story, there's many versions of it, but the one version that the mystics point to is where the soldiers fell back as dead almost twice, I think,
Yes.
when he said, "I am he." And that's the power of an awakening person,
Mhm.
that they predetermine their own actions and they predetermine the power. When they are aware of who they are, it's very, very hard for someone to, especially a bodhisattva, which is what Jesus was, a great cosmic being. It's very hard to come and do evil. The evil that you do to them, they allow you to do it.
Do we have any final questions or comments before we close out today's open discussion? If not, let us close out. Oh, go ahead, Veronica. I see your hand is up again.
Okay, this is just one last thing to the I and the I am. Is there any significance of AM being anything separate or a attribute? Because I see the I portion of the soul and then the I am as a spirit, and we're drawing, or we are an aspect of the I am, but is there any significance to where when you remove or just isolate AM?
No, I mean, it's, no, it's the way the mystics described it hundreds or maybe thousands of years ago. He said that I am, which is the real you, is spirit. And that spirit is God, is a part of God, is the absolute. And we talk about spirit as though spirit is singular, but spirit is not. It's part of the whole. And when you say I am, you're really speaking about the God within you. Even when Jesus said, "My Father," he was speaking about the I am within him. And that's the way the mystics and the yogis describe that. You know, when he spoke about, when I go back to my Father, he was speaking about the absolute, the all in all, the endless potential, which is God. And that's what each and every last one of us are. And I think somewhere else in the Bible it said that ye are gods. I think it was in Corinthians or Romans when Paul was teaching his disciples. You know, and that's correct. That each and every one of us is a God because we are a part of God. So the I am represents this endless potential and this divine spark of God. And we say divine spark of God within us because of our limited understanding. And then this I am creates the I, which is the soul, which is making the journey through multiple reincarnations in the manifested world. That the I am spoke into creation or spoke into being, because the soul is manifested. But the difference between the soul and all other manifestations, that the soul will enter back into the spirit as a conscious aspect of God. And that's why it holds the status of I. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No further questions or comments. Let us close out today's class with reciting of the New Lord's Prayer. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so, receive through their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance and for your patience. I apologize for those technical glitches we had at the start, but everything should be working normal by next class. A reminder, this Friday, we will cover chapters 3 and 4 of the Ancient Language of the Soul. And then on Sunday, we will review some highlights as well as entertain more of your questions in our open discussion. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week and look forward to seeing you next time.